Hello. So, if you have never been on my channel before, my name is Ashley. I'm 34 years old. I'm sorry if my hair looks a little stringy right now. I have lost an immense amount of hair over the past several months. I've had my YouTube channel for about maybe I don't know, a year or so, maybe more or less. I think it was back, I did it in May of 2025. I think that's when I started it. It's been interesting to see the progression of, how it started and kind of what it's turning into. For right now, I've been using it to chronicle my journey that I've been going through as a young woman, going through some very tough times. We all go through things in our life that are really hard. We all cope through them differently. My life, I was dealt some really unexpected, unfortunate circumstances, and it's caused a lot of chaos, confusion, and uncertainty in my life. It's drastically affected my relationships, me, my mental health. Personally, I don't mind saying that. And that's something else I want to discuss, I think, in this video specifically is, mental health. And I also wanted to talk about conspiracy theories and things like that. Because if you have been following my channel, I've been speaking a lot about, if you see you could see the deterioration from how jovial and happy I was when I first started my channel back in May, I think, of 2025. I was living in Vermont at the time. I was kind of looking for remote work, and I've been experiencing this phenomenon, or I guess the blanket term is called, and I don't know why it's called that, because you can't really relegate it to some one specific gang, but it's called gang stalking. And there's also the term targeting. I don't know how these terms came to be, because in modern day society, if you Google them, if you go on Google, and I'm trying to say this with just very matter-of-factly, and I'm not trying to say this over-emotionally, because here's the thing, I've learned that, and it's hard, it's really hard, because these things cause a confluence of emotions, meaning an amalgamation of all these different emotions. You become extremely distraught, you become extremely distrusting of individuals around you, and you may misperceive things that you think are a threat but are actually not, or you may bypass and completely override what is a threat for the want and need of, companionship, or there's a bevy of different things and reasons why. So if you don't know my story, I'm not going to rehash the whole thing from top to bottom, but I wanted to kind of address this idea of conspiracy theories, or if you have seen the progression of kind of the deterioration, actually, just from where I was to where I am now, in terms of mental health, physical health, things like that. First of all, let me preface this by saying that I am somebody, my dog is sitting here trying to, you want to scooch up? And I'm sitting at a high top chair right now. I do have a slight stomach ache. That's also part of what I've unfortunately been experiencing, is a lot of gastrointestinal upset. And that's been something that's been really difficult to deal with, because I never used to have any physical issues, but I'm going to get to that. I'm kind of just winging it. I don't have an outline of what to say. I'm just kind of going off, flying by the seat of my pants here. But yes, I specifically wanted to discuss the conspiracy theory aspect of it, and then how that affects one's mental health. And then, I mean, I'm not a therapist. I want to also preface, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. I did work previously in healthcare. I feel really blessed and lucky that I had training in the healthcare field, and I also studied psychology as well. So I was able to learn different coping strategies. I was able to learn about the mind. I also touched briefly on abnormal psychology. So that's kind of like when the brain goes or like psychopathy, sociopathy, things like that. And the why behind the what. Like, why do people do bad things? And on the flip side, like, why do bad things happen to good people? I was thinking a lot about that today. But going back to kind of the origins of everything, I started the YouTube channel with the hopes of trying to kind of give people hope and offer this form of peer support. As a person, I'm very different. As an adult, like as a woman, the things that interest most people in my age group, like, they don't interest me. And that's been very hard to navigate also as someone going through this whole thing. The words targeting and gang stalking, I realized, as someone who believes in metaphysics, and I believe in law of attraction and what you think you attract, like I do, and I don't know the science behind it. I'm not a quantum physicist. I can't tell you how thought vibrations, like what you think if you emit like in your brain and then those go out, and string theory. I mean, we all have our little philosophies that we think govern our life or govern the universe, right? And we all feel very like possessive of that, like, oh, I know that this is the way that things are, and Darwinism and evolution, and the topics of religion and politics are probably the most touchiest. My necklace is stuck. Bear with me while I just try to dislodge this. I've learned that politics and religion are the most touchiest topics. People will literally kill people over those things. That and money. Like, literally. Okay, I may not be able to dislodge it, so it's just gonna have to stay like that. And as a little girl growing up, I wasn't really exposed to much. I grew up in a very, I want to say, sheltered home. I grew up in a family where, just to paint a picture of it, we were the type of family, like, we would go, I remember very distinctly, we would go bike riding, like, through the neighborhood. We had, like, the little back seat attached to the bike, and my dad, or my mom, they would give us a little cup of Oreos, and, like, we would ride through our neighborhood. And our neighborhood was really safe. I grew up in a very, like, upper middle class neighborhood in Miami, Florida, or a subsection of it, or a subdivision, I guess you can say. And nothing really bad ever happened there. I will be honest, I really didn't watch much politics. My father was the one, he would watch both, channels, I guess, of the two distinct parties, but I never paid attention to it. I was just like, that stuff did not interest me at all. I was interested in the arts, like dance, ballet. I loved when summer came around, and when summer camp happened, I loved signing up for, even though I was painstakingly shy, I loved doing pottery class, like ceramics and stuff like that. And I remember I made some friends through that. I did like a fitness camp once. I did musical theater camp because my brother did that. And I had a really, really beautiful, decent life. And it's really a shame to see how drastically it all just fell apart. And it's fascinating at the same time. I mean, not saying it's not a good thing, it's not fascinating. I mean, for me, as someone, because my brain tinkers and I like to know the why behind the what, I sit here and I go, how did it come to this, you know? And a lot of people, you know, with this phenomenon called targeting or gang stalking, if you will. Again, if you haven't heard of these terms, it's not something, it's a really horrible truth, I'll put it that way. It's a devastating truth. Because it's like, imagine if adults started coming after you and got a whole community or city to come after you. But here's the thing, you can't prove any of it. You start to see certain things happen in your life, like certain vehicles following you. And then you start to ask yourself, am I being paranoid? Am I like overthinking? And you're like, no, because you know the difference between typical behavior from an individual and atypical behavior, because just we all know that because of how we relate to each other on a day-to-day, you know, level with like when you go to the store, and we feel that, you know, like you feel like if someone is behind you, or you feel everyone has that ability, I think, within themselves. Like if you feel someone's behind you or following you, you automatically by default, you may look behind you like, oh, you know, that's what this is, but this is to like such a drastic degree that it becomes debilitating. There are a number of reasons why people can, I'm trying to say this very matter-of-factly, there are several reasons why people can become quote-unquote targeted. And it's really sad that I've seen all of these accounts of different people through the years. Some people have gone through it for 30, 40 years, almost 50 years. God bless their soul. And it's really sad because the lengths that these strangers or people that you don't even know will go to try to sabotage your life. Like literally, when I say sabotage, some things that I mean are the biggest part of it, I think, is the electronic part, because I'm no tech wizard, I'm no tech genius, but you can kind of decipher and discern like if your devices are acting wonky. And that's what happened to me, and that's how it all started. And I got like an email even from Spotify where it said we had to reset how it started for me, I take it back. I actually got notified by Apple. And here's the thing, folks, and it dislodged. That's a good sign. It was stuck, and now it's free. It can move around. So I'm sorry if this looks inappropriate. It's a tiny chair. My bottom is trying to fit on the chair, but it's a tiny chair. So as I was saying, for me, I had a notification from Apple. It said that all my, my Apple iCloud keychain. If you've never heard of this, so there's a password manager on your phone where if you're like me, and I know this sounds really bad, and I'm sorry, I am not a tech wizard. I thought so highly, and I still do, of the little iCloud keychain thing, where basically it like saves all your passwords. But me, I'm a dodo bird. I used the same password for everything, and it was fairly simple. I'm not going to say what it was. I'll say it was my first name and my birth year. Anybody could probably figure out my password, which rule number one is, if I'm going to give advice, pick a strong password. Because I didn't have that. So, and also, I don't know if I would advise saving your passwords to the iCloud keychain. For me, it was easier because it was just like, it's super convenient. They do the little Face ID thingy, and then you don't have to worry about like remembering, because I have a physical password book, but like, I don't know, it's just super convenient. So anyways, I remember I was working as a waitress, and I just got like a notification, all your passwords have been breached, and I'm like, oh God. And here's the thing, when it comes to the tech cyber world and trying to backtrack the digital footprint, and when it comes to like, let's say cyber crimes or cyber investigations, what have you, it's kind of hard to, I mean, if you're a tech wizard, probably not, but if you're not a techie person, it would be hard. And I'm not a techie person. I love PowerPoint. I love Microsoft Word, and like I know my way around that, and maybe like the Safari browser, Internet Explorer, Firefox not so much, Google Chrome kind of. Excel, I know basic Microsoft Excel. So for me, this whole targeting, I hate that word, that all of this craziness started with that. And then it kind of escalated to me reaching out to friends going, or not my friends, just my coworkers saying, guys, my phone just like, Apple just said this, and this. And I didn't think at the time to like, screenshot it. It was so quick, like I didn't think to do it. And then my emails started to get funky. Like I would turn my phone on, and my Microsoft Outlook email the number would go down from like a really big number to like, it would plummet. And I was like, what is going on? And forgive me, I literally have a bad stomachache right now, unfortunately. And that was concerning. Also, my IP address was, I didn't know an IP address isn't what does IP stand for? Internet provider? No, I don't know. It's like it's the address. I don't know. It's what helps denote where you are, I think, with the website or whatever. Again, I'm not a techie person, but I need to actually work on that and build that up a little bit, because I feel like I should know more about that. But anyways, so my IP, like I'll put it, okay, no, I don't know if it's my IP address. No, I take it back, sorry. It was my location. I would go to a website, and then it would say I was in Oklahoma, Sacramento, California, the Bronx, New York, Orlando, Florida. I think Jacksonville was on there, St. Augustine, and some other places that I can't recall at the moment. I know California was on there, and I go, but I'm in Miami, Florida. So I was really, really confused. I didn't figure that my family would be able to help me, because I was like, they're not going to know what any of this, like literally, like, like they're not going to know how this works, so I didn't really bother to seek out advice from them. I started to worry when my phone would shut on and off by itself. Like it would turn, like the phone would go like black, and then a little spiral thing would come up, and then it would flash. Sometimes my phone would flash on and off. Like the screen would go black, and then it would turn on, and it would go black. And I'm like, it was almost as if someone was accessing my phone from a distance and remote controlling it. That was freaky. What also was freaky, because I learned if you plug in a compromised phone into a car, because cars are like computers now, I'm not trying to scare people, but if you plug in your phone via USB to your car, because there's like Apple CarPlay, there's all that stuff, because cars are literally like computers. You can literally turn a car on with the push of a button. My car, at the time I had the Toyota CHR, I called it the Batmobile, because I'm a nerd and I like superhero stuff. Don't ask me why. I don't know. It had beautiful blue interior, blue stitching on the seats, and I just thought, I actually wanted I wanted white with the black top, but I ended up getting all black, and then the inside had the blue dashboard. I thought it was so cool. That, I take it back, my Fiat, which I called Cupcake, was really, really cute. That was one of my favorite cars, was Cupcake, because it looked like a ladybug on the outside, like on the main front part, and then anyways, I'm getting so off track, I'm sorry. But even my car was acting funky. Like, I would come back from a shift from work and my windshield wipers would be in the opposite direction. My steering wheel would be in the opposite direction. So either somebody was in my car, or somebody remotely accessed the car and turned it on and did stuff to it. To say that I was petrified is an understatement. There were times where I would even, when I was volunteering, because at the time I was going to go to, I was trying to get into occupational therapy school in Florida. And I remember getting out of the car, and my car didn't have the capability, like you put your hand on the handle and some cars lock automatically, like the fancy cars, or not even the fancy cars, like even the mid-level cars do that. Mine didn't have the capability. Like, if you did the little lock thingy, you had to manually lock it. I remember very distinctly, I didn't even put my hand on the lock, it locked by itself. I was like, WTF. So it felt like somebody was taunting me and cyberbullying me, essentially. Proving that was extremely, extremely, and still to this day, it was difficult. I had my suspicions of who I thought it was. And that is one of the most, it is such an odd thing, because the digital world, the cyber world, you can't, especially if you're dealing with somebody who's like, let's say, expert level tech person, right? If they know the stealth mode and they know how to get within your computer or your devices without even needing to get near them, because there are programs out there, and I don't want to scare people, but this is why I think it's good to have, I don't know if it's cybersecurity literacy or just knowing how to, and this is why I think we need more workers in the cybersecurity landscape, because cyber hackers, like, I was just reading on Firefox that there were these hackers that were trying to hack into the water system somewhere and put contaminants or something like that. I don't know. It was in 12 different states, and I'm like, there's a lot that hackers can do. They can control, if someone wanted to, they can control, and this is where the conspiracy theory thing comes in, right? And I'm not trying to scare people. But I've been personally scared about, like, because when I started to Google, how do I know I'm hacked, right? Like, I've seen YouTube channels where the people are like, oh my God, guys, like, this one girl, I'll never forget it. She broke down crying, and she had like a bunch of people following her on her channel. Like, she literally broke down crying, saying like, guys, my channel, it's hacked, and they duplicated my Instagram, but I'm talking, this girl was like the influencer, like, she was a top tier, like, at least over 300,000 subscribers. She was freaking out and panicking. And I think she was a single female, I think, but she had a very fulfilling life. Like I don't know if she worked in healthcare, I don't know if she worked in marketing, but she had a very fulfilling life. And it's amazing because you could see, she was very candid and very open and transparent. You could see how destroyed and debilitating this situation was to her. And I remember I watched her thing, her video came up and said, guys, I've been hacked. And I'll never forget it. And she was devastated. And I've heard of things where hackers like demand ransoms or or scammers, fortunately I've never had anyone ask me for money or anything. No one's I have gotten a lot of spam calls for loans. I have gotten an absurd amount of spam calls your loan is ready, and it sounds really and this is scary too with the AI aspect of it. The people that leave these voice messages sound real. Sometimes I'll answer the phone and I'm and they sound real. They don't sound like little robot people anymore. They sound like real people. So you have to be very, very careful. I will also say that in that same time frame where all this weird stuff was happening, I received a text message, and I remember very distinctly, I didn't click on the link. A text came up, and I don't remember what it said specifically, but I didn't even open there was a hyperlink in the text bubble, and I remember opening the text. I went to when it says number 1 on your thing and you click it, and it's in your little text inbox, and I just opened it just to view it. That's the proper term, just to view it. My phone froze. Boom, 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 boom. I kept tapping it and couldn't do anything. I was oh my God. I remember it was midnight and I was sitting on my bathroom floor and I was petrified. And I was going, what am I going to do? Proving that to police officers, especially in a town. So the town I grew up in is very very laissez-faire. Nothing happens in this. This is not to say a Hallmark. Okay, not to be funny, but it's and I'm not trying to judge it. It's the town that I grew up in. If you think of the Latina or Latino version of Hallmark towns, that's the town that I grew up in, basically. Very picturesque, very nothing bad ever happens. So when I sought out help for my situation, first of all, I did go to Apple. I tried to ask Apple. I asked, I think I called a senior representative, and I said, hey, this and this is happening to my phone. What can I do? They did their little thing. They're okay, let's log into your thing. Can I access your phone or computer? Okay, I'm going to go into your laptop. Okay, blah, blah. They couldn't find anything. I'm telling you, there's software or spyware that is so when that person couldn't help me, and I'm not a tech person, I'm not a tech wizard. I'm just telling you my logic and the steps that I went through to try to safeguard myself digitally and virtually or whatnot. Because that's one of the main components of this whole thing. That's kind of how it all originated and how it all started. I went to the Apple rep, I called in to customer service, and then I actually went to an Apple store at Dadeland Mall. It's a very popular mall. And the guy was okay, let's plug in your phone, let's do diagnostics. Couldn't find anything, but I told him, I was listen, this weird stuff's happening to my phone. My location is wonky, my emails are getting deleted, it keeps turning on and off by itself. He's did you check your storage? Did it fall in the water? Did it whatever? Did you drop it? I'm like, no, I didn't do any of those things. He's did you click a link in an email? I'm like, no. And I told him, I'm pretty sure, like, I think I got hacked. So then I kept learning about hacking, like not learning to learn how to do it. I just was like Googling it, and I'm like, okay, how do you know this and this? So then I started to go deep into like my computer. I didn't know that everything that you do on your computer gets logged. Every single little thing, every little click, every little whatever. It's fascinating. To computer people, you people are like little magicians. I don't know how you do it. It's very confusing to me. Engineering is like fascinating because you have to know computation, and you have to know coding and logging and whatnot. I wish my brain had the capacity to do that. I'm more like liberal arts, like artsy fartsy psychology, English literature. That's more my thing, and like dance and whatnot. I like, and kind of science. I do like the sciences, like medical sciences, but that's the extent of it. Math and we don't mesh well. I wish I could be like there's actually, oh my God, there's a show, and I loved it so much. It was called Zoe's something playlist, extraordinary playlist, and the girl was an engineer for this group or firm, and I was like, and it was like a musical show, and I was like, I wish I was like her. I was like, I wish I was smart like her, and I could do computer stuff or whatever, but in another life, you know. Anyways, so yeah, the weird stuff kept happening. My notes app, so I did this, I am weird, and I would notate in a notes app like how many times I would see angel numbers, because I used to see these, if you don't know what angel numbers are, they're repeating numbers like 11 11, 12 12, 1 2 3 4, 1 1 1, 5 5 5. I used to see those all the time. Now, you don't have to, you can call that woo-woo science. For me, it was really interesting to see. They usually say that's indicative of spiritual awakening, angels trying to get in touch with you, what have you. It's a glitch in the matrix. I don't know, whatever. It's just fun to think about. So I used to keep track of those, and I remember very distinctly that note specifically kept repeating itself, like on its own in my app. And I'm like, this is weird. And then also, too, it's like someone was in my phone, controlling my phone, because that certain notes would get suggested to me. Like, read this note, do, whatever. And I'm like, so then I started going down the rabbit hole of like, I need a new phone, or I need a new computer. I tried to get to the root, like, so there's something called the super root user on a Mac. And because what happens is, if a hacker does have access to your things, they can put a keylogger on your computer, and then with that, you're not to say you're screwed, but like what happens is they can get all your passwords. They can like figure out, they can get into, because it logs the keystrokes of whatever you type. So your bank, I feel very fortunate, and I haven't had any funky things happen with my banks, because I had a different bank at the time when I was living in Florida. And yeah, I didn't have any weird stuff happen with the banks. And that's also the interesting thing too. I didn't have like any alerts from Experian or Credit Karma, even LifeLock. Like I bought LifeLock for like $39 at the time. And I was like, because I was what someone advised me to do, like someone who was trying to give me legal aid at the time. He's like, because I was a waitress and I would serve lawyers. And I remember I went to one and I was like, listen, what do I do? He was so nice. Him and his wife were so nice, the nicest little couple. And he's like, get LifeLock, secure your phone, whatever. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I'll do that. When things started to go awry and get weird was when I started to see a certain individual at different places that I was. Then I started to see ominous things pop up on my devices, like scary things, scary images, scary thumbnails, scary videos were being suggested to me, like what it feels like to get shot at, music to be murdered to. What else? It was a lot worse than that. What it feels like to be shot at in the head, the anatomy of a gunshot wound. I'm trying to remember what else. And clowns. There were weird stuff about clowns with scary teeth. Like, just really, like, it seemed like someone was purposely trying to scare me. And not to say I'm a baby about stuff, but, like, if you see a bunch of, like, ominous stuff, like, oh, you're gonna die, and it had I remember on my Pinterest, there was, like, it said The Anatomy of a Psychopath, or suggested book, the Anatomy of a Killer, what a killer thinks. And I'm like, oh, that's another one. It would say murder mystery and makeup. And I'm like, who is this lady? And I'm like, I would never watch that stuff. The stuff that I would watch, it was like the Dodo. If you don't know, that was like one of my favorite channels. It was about like animals getting rescued, and I loved watching that. And Soul Pancake by Rainn Wilson, that was one of my favorite channels. Dance videos, skincare videos. That's the content that I would consume. And I also did watch some, like, not to say I was into tarot, but I watched I was into horoscopes. I was one of those people. Yes, I was like, I want to know my horoscope. I was always into that when I was a kid, and I was like, I would go to in CVS, and I would read the little magazines, like the teen magazines, like, what's my horoscope? Because it was fun, it was entertaining. So, but I never looked up anything about, like, MURD, I think red rum is what they call it on the internet, which is frightening. And so I was very confused. And then when I started to see a certain individual at certain places, but the thing is I didn't take pictures. I didn't think to take pictures because I was like, I'm not a detective, I'm not an investigator, and I wasn't going to be like, like that wasn't, I was just living my life, I was going in my car, going to places, and it's so weird to flash back. I remember seeing myself going to the grocery store, getting out of the car, going to the parking lot, my hair in a bun, wearing my blue jean jacket with my little elephant pants, my yoga pants and my little sandals. And it's crazy to think about how life has changed so much since then. But that's when everything started to go downhill. And it made, like, sleeping very, very difficult. I was scared to go to sleep because I thought, well, if someone's hacking my phone, what if they hack my parents' phone? What if they hack into our alarm system? We had an excellent alarm system with, was it AT&T, Uverse or something? I don't remember what it was specifically, or ADT, but we had an excellent alarm system. But I was scared that someone was gonna disarm our alarm in the middle of the night. Because, that's another thing. Someone would scare me and put, like, videos how to pick a lock, how to unlock a door, like, physically. Like, it said I'm a locksmith, and it would have a picture of a guy with black gloves on, and I'm like, or it would also show pictures of someone with, like, gloves on with cash, with, like, counting cash, or a knife, and I'm like, who is taunting me like this? Like, who is doing this to me? And I was legitimately, and this is where I say the conspiracy aspect of it, because it's been very, very, very difficult to prove, because people can counter that and go, oh, that's algorithm. You probably looked up something with locksmiths or something along those lines, maybe, and I go, no, I did not. I never have. To this day, I put all those scary thumbnails in a folder, and I call it weird stuff. I had HTML, I think that's what it's called, JavaScript, HTML, font or something on my computer of, like, someone went to France, I think, I'm assuming, and I've never been to France, and it said, I can't remember, this is on an old computer, but it said Air Corsica, and it had ticket information for France, and I'm like, I didn't go to France, so I'm like, either someone used my Wi-Fi, or I was very confused. And then being told by Apple people, oh, there's nothing wrong. So I'm like, okay. But now I was trying to balance doing OT, school shadowing, family life, dance, waitressing, what have you. And I was just like, and I was scared. And I literally, then I started to go, okay, I need to protect myself. So I couldn't really sleep at night. I would sleep with, I know this sounds really drastic and scary and maybe exaggerated, but like I had like a knife in my night. I had this really beautiful white oak nightstand with a drawer, and I remember very distinctly having a knife, like a kitchen knife, on the side. I went to go purchase a firearm at one point. Like little me. Like I remember I went in a sundress with my backpack, and I was like, it was called Charlie's Armory, and I was like, hey guys, I was like, I need a handgun because I need to protect myself because da-da-da-da-da-da is happening to me. And they're like, what happened? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I got hacked. I learned about a Faraday bag or case. Didn't know what that was. But they were actually really lovely people. I never Yelped about it. I never did a Yelp. No, did I do a Yelp review? Maybe. I don't know. Didn't end up purchasing a firearm because my family was like, you're not going to have that in this house. Additionally, I was under a lot of distress too. And I think if you are going to be a firearm owner, that comes with a severe amount of responsibility. I think you have to be in a good mental state. You have to have a certain level of maturity as well. And you have to be educated on how to use it and where to keep it and how to keep it safe. Because one wrong move, you shoot yourself in the foot, you shoot someone else, boom. Like the laws that are like literally with firearm and self-defense, like there's so many parameters that you have to follow. It's crazy. But I told myself, I was like, I want to get educated because number one, I wanted to protect my family. I never actually intended to use it, but I wanted to protect my family. I even remember at the time when I would come home from waitressing, I would sit outside on the bench and I would play with my cats because I loved my cats at the time. And they would come to me and we would sit there. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning and my dad would be like, you gotta come inside. And I'm like, I was like hyper vigilant. At that time, nothing like my food or water, nothing of the stuff that I'm going through now was happening then. Nothing. I had normal food. I would give anything to snap my fingers and go back in time and have just a clean glass of water. Oh my God. A fresh, clean glass of water with no contaminants or no toxins or poisons or anything. Like, I would give anything for that right now because my life has changed so much since then and I've gone through so much. I'm trying to remember the point where I finally went to the police. I think it was when I went to the grocery store and I started to see a certain person. Here's the thing, folks. If you don't have proof of something, it's always going to be doubted. And then on top of that, if you're not physically maimed or harmed, you're going to look just like the crazy lady who may have some grudge to pick against somebody, because a lot of people are crazy. There are women out there that make up lies and stories of people all the time, just to get back at people or just for attention. I didn't want attention. And, my city, they weren't really equipped to handle that stuff. So I was told to, they said, reach out to IC3.gov. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. It's like the cybercrime FBI complaint form or something. So I was like, and in my heart of hearts, I was like, okay. I was like, I'm going to get the answers. I'm like, God answered my prayer. This is it. I'm good. So I did a background check on the person that I thought was the catalyst or the instigator of all of it. I can't say he's totally 100% at fault because there's a little bit more to the story if you haven't watched my video. I think I know why, the motive of why he maybe did, because I'm pretty sure, I'm like 70% sure it was him, maybe 75% or 80%, because I don't have any other, I don't have any other enemies, and why would some guy from a random country like Poland or Bucharest or Turkey or Jordan or India, like what would they do taunting some girl in Miami, Florida incessantly with like little weird thumbnails, like what would they get out of that? And no one actually messed with my bank account, so I'm like, well, what would they want, So it got real when like I started to see that person, and it freaked me out. So I did go to the police. The detective really didn't know, like I tried to figure out how to see or prove that someone, and here's the thing too, that person, he's entitled to shop like that, he's entitled to go anywhere, but I was trying to prove, like, because it was strange, because I would call my mom and I'd say, hey, I'm gonna go here, boom, that person would show up there. Hey, I'm gonna go here, boom, that person would, someone who looked very eerily similar to him, even from a side profile, would show up there. So I was very distraught. I was very scared. And I would see this person, the same car, go by my work, my home, and other places. Like when I would go teach kids yoga, I would see this like behind me, and I was like, I was petrified. Now here comes the really it sounds loony, but my logic was, okay, if someone's hacked into my phone, they could see what I'm seeing because maybe they're screen mirroring my stuff. So let me text them through my number. So I would start to text that person, or text me, but I knew that they'd be able to see it because they were hacked into my stuff. So I was like, okay, let me talk to them, like in a weird way. And I'd say, please stop what you're doing. Please leave me alone. I don't know what you want. If I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry. I want to live my life. Just get off my phone. All this stuff like that. And then whoever was doing it would taunt me more. They would repeat my notes on my notes app. The phone shutting on and off would get even worse. My computer started shutting on and off on its own too. So then that made doing my studies very hard. I would literally plan doing my studies around when this person maybe was busy or whatnot. Then I figured maybe it wasn't that person, because I go, maybe it's a friend of that person. After I did a report on said person, or the incident, right, that occurred, the first time it was like, okay, they didn't take it seriously. Then when I mentioned about this specific individual being, I did a background check of my own. First of all, I did a background check and I paid $200. No, it was $250. Then I tipped somebody $50. So it was $300. Didn't get much out of it. Then I did my own background check, like me on my own accord on a website. And it gave me a substantial amount of information, and it was accurate because I did the background check on myself, my brother, my mother, my father, and it was all accurate, it all checked out. And for him specifically, his name came up, even though his name is very common, kind of, it's a Hispanic name, but it's very common, it came up as being something with narcotics kingpin. Now, I don't know what that terminology is. That's when I went back to my precinct and I said, hey, not to alarm you, I'm not trying to bother you, but I am really scared. And this is what I found. And I'm not even a police officer. I just was trying to find, and I wasn't trying to, no pun intended, pin him, like put the blame on him. I was just like, listen, I am scared because narcotics means drugs, obviously, because I know there's a show on Netflix called Narcos, and I never watched it. I don't like that stuff. It's too scary for me. Then kingpin means something with drugs, again, like a big drug thing. So I was like, and then my mind started to race, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what? I'm like, what can of worms did I open? My life is over. I was like, that's it. That's it. My life is over. Because I go, who does he know? How am I gonna live my life? Like, what if I get killed? You know, I started to freak out, and I was like, what if I get killed? After I did that cyber crime report, because no, the guy was like, yeah, report it to whatever, and so I reported to the FBI. My life, when I say things changed drastically, I mean things changed drastically. I started to, I have no idea why, have like cops tail me. I had a big, giant, beautiful Escalade, but in the middle of the night, like when I came home from work at 11 o'clock at night, follow me home. Tinted windows, shiny rims, very scary. Black unmarked SUVs. Some were kind of run down, some were not. In a triangular formation, would be in front of me or behind me. My first go-to thing was, oh shit, it's government. I'm like, but why is the government? I was asking for help. Why would the government be? Because automatically you think a fleet of black things and this and that and whatever, and you think government, right? Because you don't see that on a day-to-day basis. That's not normal. So, to say I was terrified is an understatement. I then told myself, I have to learn self-defense, because I was still waiting around. I did get into OT. I'm sorry, my ear, this hurts. I did get into OT school. It's very unfortunate that I decided to turn down a program in Florida, and I wrote a handwritten letter to the director, whom I had a wonderful interview with, and I said, I'm sorry, ma'am, due to unfortunate circumstances I'm going through right now, XYZ. I explained it to her, and I was like, I can't join the class of whatever I don't want to cry about it, because I love education. Education is like so near and dear to my heart, because to me, knowledge is wealth. The more you know, the better. That's why I'm so big in investing, I think, in children and their future, because they're the future, you know. They're the future lawmakers, they're the future inventors, scientists, researchers, teachers, doctors. So I gave her a handwritten letter, and I said, I'm sorry. I remember sitting in the car, and I go, I just couldn't believe, like, my life, just that was the beginning of things starting to deteriorate. But then I had this opportunity from a school that reached out for OT in Pittsburgh. But even when I went to Pittsburgh, when I went to visit that school, I had a weird situation there. There were a fleet, unless it was a coincidence, there was a fleet of police cars, like, lined up at the airport. I remember when I got on the bus. And the other strange part, this is where it got really scary. Different hotel rooms I would stay in, not on the planes, not in the cars yet, but different, like, if I would stay in a hotel room or even in my room, like at home, I sensed this weird cold air. And it almost felt like I was going to suffocate. I know the difference between a panic attack and an anxiety attack. This wasn't that. This was like cold, freezy air, almost like nitrous gas. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. And I remember I stayed at a hotel, I think it was the Wyndham, I'm not sure, in Pittsburgh. I had to leave the hotel and change hotel rooms because I had to cover the air vents because this weird gas was being emitted into the hotel room. To say that I was petrified again is an understatement. Then I went to the Hilton Garden Inn. I remember I shared my story with the directors of this. It was a faith-based Catholic occupational therapy school. They had a beautiful sim lab, funny enough. I told myself later, I was like, maybe this is all a sim. Maybe it was all like a practice run. Someone was trying to test my skills for something. And I would love to believe that. I really do. I would love to believe that this whole thing was just an exercise in intuition, and I was put through like this obstacle course of something, but unfortunately it doesn't feel like that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and that's where the conspiracy theory part comes in. The gas thing is where it started to get very alarming, because even when I stayed at the Hilton Garden Inn, I even have a video of myself on my digital camera where I recorded myself, and I said, I'm in this hotel room. I covered the AC with towels because it felt weird. It was almost like people were rigging the AC units in the rooms, and I'm like, what's going on? And then on my YouTube feed, someone would put like, you're gonna need a gas mask, and it had like a picture of like those war gas masks with those little aerator things, like brown. I mean, I was like terrified. I was absolutely terrified. Ended up turning down the OT school. Then I went back to Miami, returned to a job that I had at a hospital. I'm not gonna get too much into that. Didn't really work out. I resigned, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna move to Philadelphia. Long story short, the cyberbullying, the cyber taunting continued. I would get followed. Like, I remember I went on a day trip to New Jersey, to a lovely town called Cape May, New Jersey, and Villas, New Jersey, because I was like, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to get some peace and quiet and relaxation. Because my hotel room, in my apartment building that I stayed in, I lived in this beautiful high-rise in Philadelphia. It was absolutely stunning, and I could afford it. I had a $67,000 salary as a allied healthcare professional or advanced healthcare professional. I felt very lucky that one of the premier pediatric facilities took a chance on me, and that reminds me of the ABBA group, Take a Chance On. I'm sorry, my ADD kicks in, and I'm a musical person. I love music. Music has gotten me through a lot with this situation. Anyways, moved there, but then the gas thing got even weirder. The air that was surrounding me was like, I don't even know how to describe it. It would burn my esophagus. I don't know if it was aerosol or what it was, but I had to prop my window open because it was so painful. And then I became like hyper focused on air purifiers. Like in every room I needed an air purifier. I will say it was weird because downstairs when I would go grocery shopping, there was a giant superstore right downstairs in the building. Again, it was so convenient. And I was so banking on the idea that like Philadelphia was going to be my saving grace, and I was going to get a fresh start. And like, I was like, oh, I'm going to date, I'm going to do all this fun stuff, and I'm going to be on this team, and it's going to be awesome. I'm going to learn so much because, when you work at a pediatric research facility, when it's university affiliated, they do a lot of innovative, groundbreaking work. And if you're into research, they're more open to like kind of pushing the boundaries or pushing the envelope of like things, even if you're just like a ancillary, I don't want to say ancillary, but like if you're not a physician, like you're considered someone who's at the caliber of being the stature of like, that level of intellectualism and professionalism that like, say maybe someone, I don't know. That sounds really judgmental. Anyways, you're well esteemed and you're well respected and venerated when you're at this like level of expertise in a certain facility like that. So I felt really grateful and humbled at the same time. But I was being taunted. And then I would go downstairs to the supermarket, and the security guard would, like, oddly enough, like, just be like always around me. And I'm like, I don't shoplift. I was like, I don't know why. I learned his name after, and he was really nice actually, but like it was intimidating to me. So then I didn't think about this, the terms gang stalking, targeting. It didn't really dawn on me. Like, I didn't really, like, I don't know, it just didn't, I didn't, it didn't resonate with me. I was just like, this can't be happening to me. I was like, why is this happening to me? I've never broken the law. I've gotten 2 tickets, like, but one was dismissed. One was a speeding ticket. The other one, I turned down a street in Miami going to work. I didn't see the times. It has designated times, and sometimes certain streets they don't want you to turn down because it can get too crowded or whatever. So I've never done anything super outrageous or horrible. So, and even I would go into CVS on Market Street. The security guard would stand there, and like, it was like everyone, it just, and you can feel it, like, you know, you can feel when you're in a store, someone's has their eyes on you. You just, you know. I didn't have Bonnie at the time. This was like November 2023, right? No, November 2022. And I was just like, I was terrified. My TV, the stuff that would show up on my TV as suggested movies was like, because I had the Roku TV at the time. And it was such a beautiful apartment. It was so well decorated. I felt very lucky. I actually had a friend come visit me while I was there, and we hung out. She was very, very nice. And I tried to make it work. And, Philly had they had Rittenhouse Square. I tried to get therapy while I was there. The hardest part was like the reception that I had from my family. When I first told him, I reached out to my cousin specifically, and she's like, then she told my uncle, and then my uncle told my parents, and they're like, Ashley needs help. But they didn't mean like medical help, they meant like psychiatric help, because I told them, I feel like I'm being followed, I'm pretty sure I'm hacked, I feel like I'm being cyberbullied and stalked, and there's these weird gases, like I'm experiencing this weird gas stuff in my apartment. I'm really scared, and I'm seeing weird stuff on my phone. Not once did they ever consider that any of what I was saying could be true. They immediately went to, you need psychiatric help. And I was like, but did no one bother to investigate? That's another thing, is that it kind of laid dormant when I moved from Miami to Philadelphia. It kind of, not just necessarily went away, but it just, and my situation really didn't even get investigated, because basically I got a letter in the mail from my precinct saying, we looked into it, we couldn't find anything, if anything comes up again, we'll reopen your case. And I was like, I was really just dismayed, because the thing is I was told by the original people that I saw the first time when I did the report, they're like, okay, we'll call you, we'll be in touch, thank you for putting your report in, and we'll sit down with you, you'll hear back from us, and we'll call you so we can sit with you with your computer, and we can see what's going on. Never heard back from anybody. I got a letter that said we looked into it, we couldn't find anything. So I just was like, and that's the thing, folks, if you don't have proof, it becomes hearsay, it becomes a conspiracy, right? Then, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure I got lumped into this category then of what is called the targeted individuals. The targeted individuals, the group of people that are looked and frowned down upon as being the mentally unwell conspiracy theorists of society, the ones that feel slighted by you know, bureaucracy or whatever, and they have these assertions about high-tech technology that's targeting the world and hurting everybody, and these conspiracy against all these people to sabotage them psychologically, to degrade them and wear and tear them down to the point that they become homeless, broke, depressed, suicidal, and ill. If you go on Quora, if you go on Reddit, you'll see, or Facebook, or anything, Facebook pages, if you Google it, you'll see. There's actually, I think it's by UNICEF, if I'm not mistaken. They actually broke it down, or I don't know if it's UNICEF. There's a certain organization that really kind of explains it in a PDF format. I forwarded that on to my parents, like my family, when this first started, and I said, please read this, look at this. This is exactly what's happening to me. And like to a T, I was like, this is what's happening to me. There's no touching involved. It's all meant to psychologically thwart and undermine the individual. So basically, they are mentally incapacitated. They can no longer function in society. People at your job